Welcome back, everybody, to The Deep Dive. Today's topic is something I think we all struggle with, at least from time to time. Distractions.
Oh, absolutely.
We all have them. And thankfully, one of our awesome listeners sent in this really fascinating article all about concentration and productivity.
And sweet timing.
I know, right? It's like they read my mind. My inbox alone feels like a monster some days. So we're diving in. We're going to see what this article suggests, especially for folks like you, the people listening, people who are busy, driven, and want to make the most of their time, but maybe struggling with focus.
Yeah. And, it's not just about feeling less frazzled, right?
Yep.
The article digs into how these constant distractions, how they actually impact us.
Yeah.
Not just, getting work done, but our well-being overall.
Oh, for sure. It's like we know our phones are buzzing away with notifications, but do we ever stop and think about how that actually affects our stress levels? Or even our ability to, just think deeply about things?
It's true. And the article really calls out the 21st century as this constant stream of information, which
is true.
Right. I mean, it's pretty spot on. It almost feels like being overwhelmed is the default setting these days.
Totally. And the best part is this article doesn't just point out the problem, thankfully.
Yeah.
It lays out 9 strategies, 9, to help us fight back against distraction and actually boost our concentration.
I like it. A plan of attack.
Right. So are you ready to dive into those?
Let's do it.
All right. So number 1, it's all about identifying your distractions, not just distractions in general, but what gets you.
It's know thy enemy, right?
Exactly. It's easy to just say, oh, social media is distracting, but the article pushes us to get specific. What are my unique weaknesses? Is it certain websites, constantly checking email? We're all different.
Totally. And once you've pinpointed those, the article suggests 2 main tactics. Creating a distraction-free workspace, and then this one's interesting, setting actual boundaries for technology use.
That boundary piece is huge. They even recommend a no-phone zone during work hours. I have to admit, I'd probably have withdrawal symptoms at first, but I can see how powerful that could be.
Oh, it'd be tough, for sure.
Yeah.
But it's about reclaiming control, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And speaking of taking control, the article then moves into something I've always been curious about. Mindfulness and meditation. Do those actually work for focus, or is it all just hype?
Right. Meditation sounds relaxing and all, but can it really help me, plow through my to-do list?
That's what I'm wondering.
Well, the article makes a pretty convincing case. It emphasizes that mindfulness and meditation, they're actually practical. They can help you calm your mind, especially if it's super busy, and then that can boost focus. And the best part, you don't need to become a monk to benefit. Even a few minutes a day can make a difference.
So what's that look like in real life? Give me an example.
Okay, so think of it like a mini vacation for your mind, okay?
Yeah.
Find a quiet spot. Doesn't have to be for long. Even 5 minutes is great.
Yeah.
Close your eyes and focus on your breath. Just notice the physical sensations, like the rise and fall of your chest. And, your mind will wander because, well, we're all human. But when it does, just gently guide it back to your breath.
So it's like mental weightlifting.
Exactly. You're strengthening that focus muscle over time.
Okay, I like that. That's a great analogy, and something I bet a lot of people listening could use, especially when, things feel super overwhelming.
For sure. But it's not just about mental exercise. The article then gets into the connection between physical activity and concentration, which honestly kind of surprised me.
Wait, you're telling me that going for a run can help me focus better later on? Explain that one.
I know, right? Seems counterintuitive. But the science is there. Exercise, it boosts blood flow, oxygen levels, all those lovely endorphins. And all of those things, they're fuel for our brains. And that includes how well we focus.
So there's actual physiological stuff happening. Not just that, exercise makes us feel less stressed.
Right. The article recommends aiming for at least 30 minutes of moderate exercise daily. Doesn't have to be a marathon, just something to get your heart rate up and those brain-boosting chemicals flowing.
Interesting. Okay, so we've got mindfulness, meditation, hitting the gym.
Yeah.
All in the name of better focus. What else is on the list?
So, from moving our bodies, we go to organizing our minds. The next strategy focuses on prioritization and setting what are called SMART goals. Because, let's be honest, it's easy to feel scattered when you've got a mile-long to-do list.
Oh, tell me about it. So what are these SMART goals all about? Break it down for me.
So SMART is an acronym. It stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Instead of just vaguely thinking, I need to write that report, you get concrete. So for example, I'm going to write the introduction and first section of the report by Friday at 5 p.m.
I see. That makes so much sense. Suddenly it feels way less daunting when you break it down like that. And speaking of breaking things down, the article then gets into a time management technique I've heard whispers about, the Pomodoro technique. Is it as life-changing as everyone says?
It's definitely gained a cult following, and for good reason. It's so simple. You set a timer for 25 minutes and work on a single task, absolutely NO, multitasking with complete focus. Then, when the timer goes off, you take a 5-minute break, and you repeat that whole cycle 4 times. And then after the 4th one, you take a longer break, maybe 15, 20 minutes.
So it's like you're building in these little mental refreshers to prevent burnout. I can see how that would help with staying on track. Instead of just pushing and pushing until you hit a wall, you're taking intentional pauses.
Exactly. And it creates a rhythm to your workday. But the article takes it a step further and suggests that this rhythm actually starts before you even sit down at your desk.
Ah, you're talking about pre-work routines. I've been trying to be better about this lately. What have you found works best for you?
Well, what I think is fascinating is how much what you do before work can impact your concentration throughout the day. So the article outlines a few key steps. First, having a consistent wake-up time, even on weekends. It helps regulate your body's natural rhythms. Then, incorporate some kind of calming morning routine. It could be anything from light exercise to meditation, or even just like enjoying your coffee while you read. The key is choosing activities that help you feel grounded and ready to tackle the day.
It's like setting the tone, right? Instead of scrambling out the door all stressed, you're starting off with intention. And the article also mentions prepping your workspace the night before, so you're not walking into chaos first thing in the morning.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people skip the last step the article recommends. Actually setting your intentions for the day. It doesn't have to be anything elaborate. Just taking a minute to think about what you want to accomplish and how you want to approach your work. It can make a huge difference.
Yeah, that's so true. It's easy to just get swept up in the current of the day, but taking that moment to set an intention, it's like anchoring yourself. Okay, so we've covered a lot here. Identifying our distractions, the power of mindfulness, exercise, and even creating a pre-work ritual. What else does the article suggest for conquering these pesky distractions?
Well, it gets into something that we often think of as separate from work, but is actually really essential: self-care. The article makes a strong argument for how self-care is crucial for sustained concentration.
That's interesting. I can see how neglecting your well-being would eventually catch up to you, making it harder to focus. But what does self-care really look like in the context of, productivity?
It's all about recognizing that we're not machines. We need breaks, both mental and physical, to recharge. And, neglecting self-care can be dangerous. It can lead to burnout, decreased productivity, and then, ironically, make it even harder to concentrate. It's a vicious cycle.
So we need to be proactive about building it into our day. What are some practical things people can do?
Oh, it doesn't have to be complicated. Scheduling regular breaks throughout the day, even just 5 minutes, can make a huge difference. Just get up, stretch, go for a walk, practice deep breathing, anything that helps you step away and recharge.
Yeah, okay, good tips. So we've talked about mindfulness, exercise, pre-work routines, self-care, but there's this one productivity myth that the article tackles that I think a lot of us, myself included, are guilty of: multitasking.
Ah, multitasking, the illusion of productivity.
Right. We think we're being super efficient by juggling a million things at once, but as this article points out, that's not how our brains work at all.
Nope, not at all.
So you're telling me that responding to emails while I'm on a conference call and also trying to write a proposal is actually making me less productive?
I know, it's tough to hear, but the science is pretty clear. Multitasking hurts our focus and our overall performance. When we try to do multiple things at once, our brains are constantly switching gears, which is mentally exhausting.
It makes sense when you put it like that. It's like trying to listen to 3 different songs at the same time. You're not really enjoying any of them.
That's a great analogy. So the takeaway here is to focus on one task at a time, just one, and give it your full attention. You'll get more done, and the quality of your work will improve too.
Okay, so multitasking is officially out. What else does this article suggest for staying focused and productive?
Well, it highlights a connection that often gets overlooked: the link between organization and concentration. It might seem obvious, but the article argues that a cluttered environment, it can actually contribute to a cluttered mind.
I can see that. A messy desk, a disorganized inbox.
Yeah.
It can feel totally overwhelming. And when you're overwhelmed, it's hard to focus. What does the article suggest for combating this?
It's about creating systems that work for you. It suggests embracing practical tools like to-do lists, calendars, and even project management software.
I love a good to-do list. So satisfying to check things off as you go. But what about for bigger, more complex projects? Is that where project management software comes in?
Absolutely. Those tools can be lifesavers for staying organized, especially when you're juggling multiple projects or working with a team. They help you break down those larger tasks into smaller, manageable steps and then keep track of your progress.
So it's all about creating a sense of order and control, which then frees up mental space to focus on the actual work, right?
Exactly. And now, get ready for this. The article brings up something I was not expecting. Are you ready for a curveball?
Ooh, hit me with it. I love surprises.
Okay, so the article reveals the surprising factor in concentration. It's something we often overlook, and it's so simple. Ready?
I'm on the edge of my seat. Tell me.
Hydration.
Wait, are you serious? You're telling me that drinking enough water can actually help me focus better?
I know it sounds too good to be true, but there's science to back it up. Our brains are about 75% water, so it makes sense that dehydration would lead to, decreased focus, irritability, and an overall decline in how well we think.
I'm mind blown right now. I knew staying hydrated was important for overall health, but I never made the connection to concentration. This is a game changer.
Right, it really is. So the key takeaway here is to make sure you're drinking enough water throughout the day. Aim for at least 8 glasses and try to avoid sugary drinks and too much caffeine, which can actually dehydrate you.
Great tips. I'm definitely going to be more mindful of my water intake from now on. Okay, so we've talked about managing our physical environment, our internal state, but what about the elephant in the room, technology?
Ah, yes, technology,
Yeah.
the double-edged sword of modern life, right? It can be so distracting, but it can also be incredibly powerful for productivity.
Exactly. So how do we navigate this tricky terrain? How do we leverage technology's power without falling prey to all the distractions?
The article suggests a mindset shift. We need to be intentional about how we use technology. Instead of passively letting it control us, we need to actively choose how and when we engage with it.
So it's about setting boundaries, like we talked about earlier.
Exactly. And there are some great tools out there that can help us do that.
Yeah.
The article recommends apps like Freedom or Self-Control, which let you block distracting websites and apps during specific times.
Ooh, those sound like lifesavers. I also love those browser extensions that limit how much time you spend on certain websites. It's a great way to hold yourself accountable.
Oh, for sure. And don't forget about project management software. Tools like Asana or Trello can help you stay organized, collaborate with others, and, just keep track of everything.
So it's not technology itself that's the enemy, it's how we use it.
Exactly.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here. Any final words of wisdom from this first part of the article?
The article ends on a really encouraging note. It reminds us that mastering concentration is a journey, not a destination. It's not about achieving perfect focus 24/7. It's about building awareness of our habits and then developing strategies that work for us.
I love that. It takes the pressure off.
Right. And remember, the benefits of improving your concentration, they're worth the effort. You'll be more productive, achieve your goals more effectively, and honestly, you'll unlock your full potential.
Unlocking your full potential, that's what it's all about.
Absolutely. It's a journey worth taking.
We've covered a lot in this first part of our deep dive into concentration and productivity, but there's so much more to explore. Stay tuned for part 2, where we'll delve even deeper into the secrets of a focused mind.
We'll see you soon. Welcome back to our deep dive into the world of concentration. In part 1, we talked about some pretty powerful strategies for, minimizing those distractions and boosting focus.
As we were going through all that great advice, it really struck me how easy it is to overcomplicate things. We're always searching for that newest hack or productivity app, but sometimes the most effective solutions are right in front of us.
Oh, I totally agree. Sometimes we get so caught up in the complex that we overlook the fundamentals.
Like hydration. I have to admit, I was a little skeptical at first, but the more I think about it, the more it makes sense. Our brains are mostly water, right? So it stands to reason that not getting enough would impact our ability to think clearly.
Exactly. It's a great example of how self-care isn't just some fluffy concept. It's actually fundamental to our ability to function at our best, mentally and physically.
Which brings us to another fundamental that I think often gets sacrificed. Sleep. I know I've been guilty of burning the midnight oil more times than I can count, But the article makes a really compelling case for just how crucial sleep is for concentration.
Yeah, it's not just about feeling rested, is it? The article actually digs into the science of how sleep deprivation really impairs our cognitive function. Think about it this way. Trying to focus when you're sleep deprived, it's like trying to run a marathon on an empty stomach. You might be able to push through for a while, but eventually you're going to hit a wall.
So what's the magic number? How much sleep should we be aiming for to really optimize our focus?
The article recommends 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep each night. And notice the emphasis on quality. It's not just about the quantity of sleep we get, but also about how restful and restorative that sleep is.
So what are some things we can do to improve our sleep quality beyond just like trying to log more hours?
Well, the article suggests creating a consistent bedtime routine. It's like signaling to your body that it's time to wind down. So, dimming the lights an hour or two before bed, reading a book, taking a warm bath, or even just listening to some calming music.
And of course, limiting screen time before bed. We all know that the blue light emitted from our devices can interfere with our sleep cycles, but how many of us actually practice what we preach? I know I'm guilty of scrolling through my phone right before I close my eyes.
It's such a common habit. But creating that separation between technology and sleep, it can make a huge difference in the quality of your rest. The article also suggests, really making your bedroom a sanctuary for sleep. Keep it cool, dark, and quiet. And invest in a comfortable mattress and pillows. It's all about creating an environment that promotes deep, restful sleep.
It's amazing how these seemingly small adjustments can have such a ripple effect on our, overall well-being and then ultimately our ability to concentrate.
It's all interconnected, isn't it? And speaking of connection, the article brings up this fascinating link between nature and concentration.
Nature. Okay, I'm intrigued. How does spending time in nature tie into, our ability to focus?
Well, there have been studies that have actually shown that spending time outdoors can have a really profound impact on our cognitive function.
Yeah.
And that includes our ability to concentrate. It seems that being in nature helps to reduce stress, improve mood, and even boost creativity.
So taking a walk in the park or going for a hike in the woods, it's not just good for our physical health, it's a brain boost too.
That's right. It's like hitting the reset button on your mind. The article even suggests that just a few minutes of fresh air and sunshine can make a difference.
This is making me rethink my lunch break strategy. Maybe a walk in the park is a better use of my time than, mindlessly scrolling through social media.
It's definitely worth experimenting with.
Yeah.
Now, along with incorporating nature into our routines, the article also emphasizes the importance of minimizing noise and visual distractions in our workspaces.
That makes sense. A cluttered workspace or a noisy environment can definitely throw off your focus.
Oh, absolutely. It's about recognizing that our brains are constantly processing information from our surroundings.
Yeah.
And when there's just too much sensory input, it becomes really difficult to filter out the noise and zero in on the task at hand.
So what are some practical tips for creating a more, focus-friendly workspace?
Start with the basics. Declutter your desk. Get rid of anything that's not absolutely essential for your work. A clean and organized workspace can do wonders for your concentration.
And what about noise? I know a lot of people really struggle with being productive in, a noisy environment. What does the article suggest for those of us who can't really control the noise level around us?
Well, if you're working in a shared space or just a naturally noisy environment, the article recommends investing in some noise-canceling headphones, or even just earplugs. They can be lifesavers.
I've heard good things about those. I also find that listening to calming music or white noise can help to block out distractions.
Yeah, music can be a great tool for focus, but the key is choosing the right type. The article cautions against anything with lyrics, because, that can be distracting.
Yeah.
Instead, go for instrumental music, classical music, nature sounds. It's all about finding what works best for you.
And if all else fails, what about just changing your environment, like finding a quiet corner of the office or heading to the library?
Oh, absolutely. Sometimes a change of scenery is all it takes to kind of reset your focus.
Okay, so we've talked about creating a conducive physical environment for focus, but what about our mental state? Are there any strategies we can use to cultivate a more focused mind beyond, the mindfulness techniques we talked about earlier?
Yes. The article goes deeper into the world of mindfulness and meditation, introducing a technique called, get this, mindful walking.
Mindful walking. So instead of zoning out on my walk, I should be focusing on my steps, my breath, the feeling of the ground beneath my feet. It sounds almost too simple.
I know. That's the beauty of it. It's about bringing your full awareness to the present moment. Notice the movement of your legs, the rhythm of your breath, the sights and sounds around you. Instead of letting your mind wander, you're anchoring it to that present experience.
It's like a moving meditation. I could see how that would be a really great way to kind of calm the mind and improve focus.
Exactly. And it's something you can incorporate into your day no matter where you are. The article also suggests practicing, get this, single tasking, which is basically the opposite of multitasking.
Right, that productivity killer we talked about earlier. So instead of juggling a million things at once, the idea is to fully focus on one thing at a time. That sounds, almost impossible in today's fast-paced world.
I know, it definitely takes practice and discipline, but the rewards are worth it. When you single task, you're actually able to get more done in less time because you're not wasting all that mental energy switching between tasks.
And I imagine the quality of your work improves too, because you're able to give your full attention to each task.
Absolutely. Single tasking allows you to be more present, more engaged in what you're doing, which naturally leads to better results.
So it seems like the common thread running through all these strategies is like being more intentional with our actions, both physically and mentally.
You hit the nail on the head. It's about slowing down, tuning in, and really paying attention to what we're doing in each moment.
It's a powerful shift in perspective. Okay, so we've covered so much ground in this deep dive. What other gems does this article have in store for us?
Well, the article goes on to explore the importance of setting boundaries and managing our energy levels, but we're going to save those topics for our next installment.
Don't worry, everyone, we're not leaving you hanging. We'll be back soon with part 3 of our deep dive into concentration and productivity. We'll delve even deeper into the secrets of a focused mind.
We'll see you soon.
Welcome back, everybody, to the deep dive. We're wrapping up our exploration of concentration and productivity, and honestly, this whole deep dive has really got me thinking differently about how I approach work and just life in general.
I agree. It's been pretty insightful. We've uncovered some incredibly practical strategies in the previous parts for reclaiming our focus and being more productive. And in this final part, we're going to delve into 2 areas that we haven't really touched on yet: setting boundaries and managing our energy levels.
Let's start with boundaries. The article really stresses how important they are for protecting our time and energy. It makes sense, right? It's so easy to feel like we're constantly on, constantly available these days. But that kind of constant accessibility can be incredibly draining. It's almost like we're on call 24/7.
It's definitely a recipe for burnout.
Yeah.
The article frames it really well. In this hyper-connected world that we live in, we often feel this pressure to be available all the time, but that can actually sabotage our focus and productivity in the long run. It's just not sustainable.
So how do we set boundaries in a way that actually works? I feel like I've tried everything, setting do not disturb hours, silencing notifications, and I still end up feeling overwhelmed, like I'm being pulled in a million directions.
Yeah, it's a process for sure, and it takes practice. The article suggests starting with small, achievable steps rather than trying to overhaul your whole life at once. One thing they suggest is to set specific times for checking email and social media.
I like that. So instead of constantly being reactive and checking notifications every time they pop up, you're being proactive and deciding, okay, this is when I'm going to engage with these platforms. It kind of takes away their power in a sense.
Exactly. It's about taking back control of your time and attention rather than letting these external forces dictate your day.
What other types of boundaries can we set to, protect our focus?
The article talks about the importance of setting boundaries with people too. So that might mean learning to say no to requests that are just going to drain your energy, or setting aside dedicated time for focused work where you're not interrupted.
Learning to say no is tough.
Oh.
It can feel so uncomfortable, especially when you want to be helpful and accommodating. But sometimes saying no to others is actually saying yes to yourself and to your own well-being.
That's such an important point. Setting boundaries isn't about being selfish. It's about creating a sustainable way of working and living so that you can, show up as your best self.
Okay, so boundaries are all about protecting our time and energy, which leads us to kind of the other side of the coin, managing our energy levels. What insights does the article offer on that?
Well, it really emphasizes that, we're not machines. We all have these natural energy peaks and valleys throughout the day. And instead of trying to fight against those rhythms, it's much more effective to actually work with them.
So instead of pushing through when we're feeling drained, we should be paying attention to our bodies and actually taking breaks when we need them. I'll be honest, I can already sense some internal resistance to that.
It can be really tough to break free from that push-through mentality,
Yeah.
but trying to force focus when you're exhausted is just counterproductive. It's like
Yeah.
trying to drive a car with an empty gas tank. Eventually, you're going to stall out.
Okay, so how do we, figure out what our natural energy rhythms are?
Just start by paying attention. Pay attention to how you feel throughout the day. When do you feel most energized and focused? When do you start hitting those afternoon slumps? And once you have a better understanding of your own energy patterns, you can actually schedule your most demanding tasks during those peak energy times. And then save the less demanding tasks for, when you have a little less energy.
That's smart. It's about working with your natural rhythms, not against them. And I imagine building in regular breaks throughout the day is important too, right?
Oh, absolutely. Breaks are essential for preventing burnout and just maintaining focus over the long haul. Even just a 5-minute break to step away from your desk, stretch, go for a walk, it can make a world of difference.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in the power of breaks. Sometimes all it takes is just a few minutes to clear your head and come back feeling refreshed and ready to tackle your next task.
And, never forget about sleep. We've talked about how important sleep is before, but it's worth repeating. When we're well rested, we're just naturally more focused, productive, and creative.
I'm starting to realize that good sleep might be the ultimate productivity hack. Okay, as we're wrapping up this deep dive, what are your biggest takeaways from the article? What's really stuck with you?
For me, it's that reminder to be intentional. To be intentional with our time and attention. It's so easy to get swept away in this constant stream of information and demands and everything, but we actually have more power than we realize. We have the power to choose where we focus our energy.
That's empowering. We're not just passive bystanders in this crazy, chaotic world. We can actually make choices to shape our days and ultimately our lives.
Exactly. These strategies that we've been exploring throughout this whole deep dive, they give us these practical tools to actually reclaim our focus and create a more productive and fulfilling life.
This has been such a fascinating journey of discovery, and I feel like I'm walking away with a whole new arsenal of strategies to combat distractions and really truly boost my concentration. What about you?
Absolutely. I feel this renewed sense of clarity and purpose, and I'm so excited to put all these tips into practice in my own life.
And to all our listeners out there, we hope you feel the same way. Remember, the key is to find what works best for you and be patient with yourself. Mastering concentration, it's a journey, not a destination.
And the rewards, totally worth the effort. Just imagine what you could achieve if you were able to really, truly focus on your goals and aspirations. The possibilities are endless.
That's an exciting thought. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into concentration and productivity. Until next time, stay focused, be intentional, and keep exploring.